Jane laughed out loud. All the girls were terribly scared. The coach couldn't believe his eyes. "I'll be back to see you again," Jane said as she left the gym. The girl felt incredibly happy. She was going home. Jane wanted her parents to know about her daughter's talent. But the house was empty. Jane waited for her parents, but they didn't come. Hi friends, today I'm going to tell you a horrible story that happened at Avatar World Ballet School. A girl named Jane had been studying there since she was a little girl. Sometimes she told her parents that she didn't like ballet at all, but they convinced her that it was very good for her health. Jane couldn't accept this and skipped training. Her parents found out about it from the coach and scolded her very badly. After that, they took her to ballet school every time. Jane had to study hard. Every day she did the most difficult exercises. Jane's mom, Karen, once again took her to practice and told her that it was a special day. "Hello, dear students," said the coach. "Hello, Mrs. Caroline," replied all the girls in unison. "Today is a special class, and I want you to do just one exercise for which you have been doing others," Caroline continued. The students followed the coach's instructions, and suddenly one of them changed. "Jane's friend has grown wings. You are fairies, and people need you to discreetly keep them safe," Caroline said happily. All the girls were shocked. After a few minutes, everyone except Jane changed. Jane tried for a long time to become a real fairy, but it didn't work. Caroline calmed the upset girl down and said it was because of missing practice. Sad Jane approached the house. Suddenly, she saw her joyful parents. "Honey, we are so glad you finally found out the truth," said the girl's mom. "We couldn't tell you about it before so you could turn," said the father. The parents prepared a celebratory table. Jane told them that she did not succeed. The parents were surprised and upset, but they quickly changed and began to comfort their daughter. They told about Jane's grandmother, who was one of the strongest fairies and had her powers passed down to her. Jane continued to feel angry and resentful, but went to sleep. She fell asleep quickly and had a strange dream. Jane was in ballet school. There was an old woman standing in the middle of the auditorium beckoning the girl over to her. Jane walked over. "Hi, sweetie, I'm your grandmother and I want to help you," said the woman. The girl was shocked. Jane didn't realize if she was in a dream or not. "You're not like all the other fairies. You are stronger," continued the grandmother. Jane was studying in her sleep the strange exercise that the grandmother was showing her. Suddenly, the girl woke up. She had changed. She went to the mirror and was shocked. In a moment, she was human again. In the morning, Jane went to ballet school again. She and the other girls arrived before the coach. They were all laughing at Jane. Even the girl's best friend couldn't contain her laughter. Suddenly, the coach walked in and saw all of this. Caroline scolded the students and got to practice. She was trying to help Jane turn into a fairy again. The girl remembered her dream and the exercise she needed. But she moderated her anger and didn't do it for the transformation. At home, the girl's parents calmed the girl down again. But Jane didn't listen to them and just went to her room. She realized that she is not a fairy. She is much stronger and more powerful, like the girl's grandmother. During the night, Jane ran away from the house. A few minutes later, she was in her ex-girlfriend's room. Molly was sleeping soundly, but suddenly she woke up. "What are you doing here? How did you get in here?" Molly said in horror. Jane didn't answer anything. She turned into a monster. Molly screamed for help, but it was too late. Jane approached her ex-girlfriend, and after a few moments, her screams subsided. Molly's parents came running into the girl's empty room. They searched the house for a long time. Then they ran outside, but it was completely empty. In the morning, Jane was woken up by her parents. The girl's mom told her Molly was missing. Jane pretended to be very sad. She even managed to cry. But inside she felt pleasure and was happy about her new abilities. Jane came to practice again. Now the other female students were not laughing. They were all crying because Molly had disappeared without a trace. Caroline entered the gym. "Girls, I'm sure Molly is fine and will be found," said the coach. The students calmed down a bit and started doing the fairy transformations. Caroline approached Jane and asked her to try the transformation again. Jane thought for a moment and decided she didn't want to hide her powers anymore. A moment later, there was a monster standing in front of Caroline and the students. Jane laughed out loud. All the girls were terribly scared. The coach couldn't believe his eyes. "I'll be back to see you again," Jane said as she left the gym. The girl felt incredibly happy. She was going home. Jane wanted her parents to know about her daughter's talent. But the house was empty. Jane waited for her parents, but they didn't come. An old woman appeared out of nowhere. "They're not coming, honey," said Grandma. Jane looked at the woman in surprise. "What do you mean?" the girl asked. Your parents are afraid of your powers. They ran away," replied the grandmother with feigned sadness. At this time, Jane's frightened and trapped parents were on the second floor. The grandmother named Mona convinced Jane to start a new life. Grandmother and her granddaughter left the house. Together, they were unbeatable. Mona convinced her granddaughter of this. Mona wanted to conquer the whole town. And then, the world. But they started with the ballet school and the fairies. The girls and Caroline were still there. "Girls, we have to stop Jane," said the coach. "Why us?" the girls asked in unison. "Right now, we're the only ones who can do it," replied Caroline. As soon as she finished speaking, Mona and Jane walked into the ballet and fairy school. The girls could not overcome their feelings of fear and cried. Caroline was shocked once again. A long time ago, Caroline had also been at fairy school, and she had a great coach. It was Mona. She was a good teacher, but not the strongest fairy. Mona always wanted to be the best, so she got involved with dark magic. Mona practiced terrible spells for a long time, and dark magic changed her. Her fairy friends found out and banished her. After many years, she was able to return thanks to her granddaughter. Caroline told Jane about it. Mona denied it and told her that she and her granddaughter were special. Jane didn't want to believe what she had heard. Her mind was also possessed by dark magic. Mona and Jane began to approach the students and their coach to take all their power. Suddenly, Jane's parents came running into the room. They begged their daughter to stop. The girl thought for a while, but she remembered how her parents made her study ballet and magic. Although all her life, Jane had dreamed of something else. "I won't listen to you anymore. You never listened to me," said Jane, and approached her former friends. Then Jane's father took out a strange artifact in the shape of a goblet and cast a spell. Mona suddenly started begging him to stop. But Father Jane was in tears as he finished the spell. First, Mona disappeared right in front of everyone's eyes. Then Jane returned to her normal appearance and disappeared after her grandmother. Caroline and her students thanked Jane's parents, but they didn't listen and just went home. Many years ago, when Jane was just born, a strange man came to their home and introduced himself as a magic teacher. He told them about their daughter's possible hidden abilities. The parents were shocked. "Your daughter can become a very powerful fairy. You must channel her powers in the right direction," said the strange man. He gave them a strange artifact in case Jane became evil. "This goblet and the spell written on it can save the world," the magician continued. Jane's parents got angry and chased the strange man away. They hid the artifact in their house, and after many years, they used it. For over a month, they blamed themselves for their daughter's disappearance. But one day, the parents heard a knock on the door. On the doorstep stood their daughter, Jane. Thanks to her immense strength, she was able to return to Earth. She now realized what powers she possessed. The parents apologized to their daughter for a long time. Jane rethought everything and decided to help people. She went on to ballet school, and after a few years, she became one of the teachers. But suddenly, at the ballet school, she found a strange textbook. It had her grandmother's name written on the cover. It was a book for learning black magic. She didn't throw it away. After a few days, she decided to learn some simple spells. But it was all for the good of the common people.